3 alien mothers sought refuge, and 1 human offered more than shelter. Arrival in the storm. The amber warning lights of Alio's ridge flickered as another meteor struck the station's outer shields. Marcus Vale steadied himself against his workbench, watching exotic seedlings tremble in their hydroponic chambers. 3 years of solitude on this agricultural outpost had taught him to appreciate the quiet rhythms of plant growth, but tonight's cosmic storm brought something unexpected. His communication panel crackled to life. Unknown vessel requesting emergency docking. 3 life signs detected. Marcus hesitated. Protocol demanded reporting all visitors to the Colonial Authority, but the desperation in the transmission moved him. Docking Bay 7 is clear, he responded, already moving toward the airlock. The beings who emerged from the battered shuttle took his breath away. Kaylin stepped forward first, her violet skin luminescent under the station lights, silver hair flowing like liquid moonlight. Her emerald eyes held both strength and exhaustion. Behind her, Thessa moved with feline grace despite obvious injuries, her bronze complexion marked with intricate natural patterns that seemed to shift in the light. The third, Mireille, possessed an ethereal quality. Her pearl-white skin seemed to hold starlight, and her sapphire eyes reflected depths of unspoken sorrow. "Please," Kaylin spoke, her voice melodic despite her weariness. "We seek only temporary refuge. The consortium wars have destroyed our homes." Marcus noticed their torn clothing, the way Thessa favored her left side, how Mireille's delicate hands trembled. "You're hurt," he said, moving forward instinctively. "Let me help." As he guided them to the medical bay, Thessa's hand briefly touched his, warm, electric, unexpectedly intimate. "Why risk yourself for strangers?" she asked, her husky voice carrying an accent he couldn't place. "Because sometimes," Marcus replied, meeting each of their gazes, "the universe puts people in our path when we need them most." He didn't add that his loneliness had become a physical ache, or that their presence already felt like coming home. Mireille spoke for the first time, her voice like distant wind chimes. "We bring danger. Those who hunt us won't find you here," Marcus interrupted firmly. "Alio's ridge may be isolated, but it's mine to protect. And now, so are you." The gratitude in their eyes ignited something long dormant within him. As he tended their wounds and prepared quarters, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this storm had delivered not refugees, but destiny itself to his doorstep. The guardian of shadows Lionel Thorne circled him slowly, her movements fluid and graceful despite the rough terrain. Jackson noticed how she navigated the crystal formations without looking, as if the mine's geography was etched into her memory. 3 years, she said, answering his unspoken question. "I've been here 3 years, ever since the Keras authorities decided my research into biocrystalline fusion was too dangerous." She laughed bitterly. "Funny how they wanted to weaponize it after condemning me for creating it." Jackson lowered his defensive stance. "You're the scientist from the Meridian incident? They said you died in the explosion." "A convenient story." Lionel gestured to the glowing walls around them. "Your uncle found me injured, hiding in the outer tunnels. He let me stay in exchange for my knowledge of the crystals. These aren't ordinary minerals, Jackson. They're alive, in a way." She led him deeper into her domain, through passages he hadn't seen on any map. Her sanctuary was a marvel, a natural chamber transformed into a laboratory and living space. Crystal formations had been coaxed into furniture-like shapes, and bioluminescent plants provided both light and oxygen. Scientific equipment hummed quietly in one corner, powered by the crystals themselves. "Your uncle was kind," she said softly, pulling off her gloves to reveal delicate hands marked with tiny scars from years of crystal work. "He brought me supplies, kept my secret. When he stopped coming 3 months ago, I feared the worst." "Heart failure," Jackson confirmed, watching as she processed the grief. "He never mentioned you in his records." "He was protecting me." Lionel moved to a crystal formation that pulsed with warm orange light. When she placed her palm against it, the entire wall shimmered. "Just as these crystals have been protecting both of us. They generate a field that scrambles scanning equipment. That's your curse. Anyone who tries to survey this mine with standard tech gets nothing but static and ghost readings." Jackson stepped closer, drawn by both the phenomenon and the woman explaining it. "Show me," he said, pulling off his own gloves. "Show me what you've learned." Their hands nearly touched as she guided his palm to the crystal. The moment he made contact, warmth flooded through him, accompanied by a sensation like whispered words just beyond hearing. Lionel's breath caught as their fingers accidentally brushed, and the crystal's glow intensified. "They respond to biological energy," she explained, her voice slightly breathless, "but stronger to emotional resonance. Fear makes them dim, while joy—" She smiled, and the chamber bloomed with golden light. Crystalline confessions. Days blended into weeks as Jackson split his time between the settlement above and Lionel's hidden world below. She taught him the mind's secret language, how certain crystals hummed warnings of unstable areas, how others could purify water or generate power. In return, he brought her supplies and news from the outside world, though she seemed increasingly content in their isolated bubble. They were mapping a new section when the rumbling started. Lionel's eyes went wide with recognition. "The fault line, we need to move." The ceiling cracked, raining crystal shards. Jackson grabbed Lionel, pulling her against the wall as a support beam crashed where she'd been standing. They ran, her hand in his, navigating the collapsing tunnel with desperate precision. A falling rock clipped Lionel's shoulder, sending her stumbling. Without thinking, Jackson swept her into his arms, carrying her the final distance to safety. In a stable chamber, he set her down gently, both of them breathing hard. "Your shoulder," he said, noticing blood seeping through her suit. "It's nothing," she protested, but winced when she tried to move it. "Let me," Jackson insisted, carefully helping her out of the damaged suit top. The gash wasn't deep, but needed cleaning. He worked in focused silence, aware of her eyes on his face, of the intimacy of the moment. "I haven't let anyone take care of me in years," Lionel admitted quietly. "I forgot how it felt to not be alone." Jackson's hands stilled on the bandage. "You don't have to be alone anymore." She looked up at him, vulnerability cracking her usually confident facade. "I'm a fugitive, Jackson. Staying with me means accepting that danger." "My uncle thought you were worth protecting," he said, securing the bandage with gentle efficiency. "And these past weeks. I understand why." Lionel reached up, her fingers tracing the edge of a cut on his jaw from the cave-in. "You confuse me," she whispered. "I built these walls, literal and otherwise, to keep everyone out. But with you, I want to tear them all down." The air between them crackled with tension. Around them, the crystals began to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats, casting shifting patterns of rose and gold across their skin. Jackson cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "Then let them fall," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Let me in, Lionel." She answered by closing the distance between them, their lips meeting in a kiss that sent the entire chamber ablaze with brilliant light. Beneath starlight stone the kiss deepened as Lionel's fingers tangled in Jackson's hair, pulling him closer. The crystals around them resonated with their racing heartbeats, creating a symphony of light and sound that seemed to celebrate their connection. When they finally parted, both were breathing unsteadily. "Come with me," Lionel whispered, taking his hand. "There's something I want to show you." She led him through a passage he'd never seen before, one that required them to squeeze through narrow openings and climb over fallen stones. The path opened into a breathtaking chamber where thousands of star crystals covered the ceiling, their soft white glow mimicking the night sky Lionel hadn't seen in 3 years. "My sanctuary within a sanctuary," she said softly. "When the isolation became too much, I would come here and pretend I could see the stars." Jackson pulled her against him, her back to his chest, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You could see them again. Come back with me to the surface." She leaned into his warmth, her hands covering his. "And risk everything? Risk you? The authorities would arrest me the moment I appeared." "Then we disappear together," he murmured against her ear. "There are other worlds, other minds, places where your past doesn't matter." Lionel turned in his arms, her eyes searching his face. "You would give up your inheritance for me." "I inherited more than just a mine," Jackson said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I inherited the chance to find you." Their mouths met again, this kiss slower, deeper, full of promise. Lionel's hands explored the planes of his chest through his suit while his fingers traced the curve of her spine. The star crystals pulsed brighter, bathing them in ethereal light. She led him to a natural alcove filled with soft bioluminescent moss she'd cultivated over the years. As they sank down together, she whispered, "I haven't felt truly alive since I came here. Not until you." Jackson cradled her face tenderly. "Then let's be alive together." Their remaining clothes became a forgotten pile as they explored each other with reverent touches and whispered endearments. The crystals sang around them, a chorus of light that seemed to bless their union. In that hidden chamber beneath tons of rock and crystal, they found a universe in each other's arms. Later, wrapped in thermal blankets with Lionel's head on his chest, Jackson traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "We make quite a team," he said, gesturing to a particularly bright cluster of crystals that hadn't stopped glowing since their lovemaking. She laughed, the sound filling him with warmth. "The crystals certainly approve. I've never seen them react like this." "Maybe they know something we're just figuring out," he said, tilting her chin up for another kiss. "That we belong together. Claiming more than gold." Their peaceful morning shattered with the echo of explosions from the main tunnel. Lionel shot upright, her face pale. "Someone's blasting. They'll destabilize the entire mine." Jackson was already pulling on his gear. "Claim jumpers. The spaceport workers warned me that others had been eyeing this place." They moved swiftly through the tunnels, Lionel's knowledge of the mine's layout giving them the advantage. Through a ventilation shaft, they spotted 5 heavily armed figures setting charges near the main crystal deposits. "If those detonate, the chain reaction will collapse everything," Lionel whispered urgently. "My research, your inheritance, our home." "Our home," Jackson repeated firmly, squeezing her hand. "We protect what's ours." Using the mine's natural acoustics, Lionel created echoing sounds that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Whispers, screams, the legendary curse coming to life. The claim jumpers grew nervous, their formation breaking as they tried to locate the source. Jackson used their distraction to disable their demolition equipment while Lionel triggered controlled crystal resonances that created blinding light shows. One by one, the intruders fled, convinced the mine's curse was real. But their leader, a scarred woman named Vega, stood her ground. "I know someone's here," she called out. "No ghost knows how to disable military-grade explosives." She raised her weapon toward where Jackson was hidden. Before she could fire, Lionel stepped into view, her hands glowing with biocrystalline energy she'd learned to channel. "This mine is protected," Lionel said, her voice carrying an otherworldly quality as the crystals amplified it. "And you're trespassing." Vega's eyes widened in recognition. "You're the Meridian scientist. There's a bounty." "Was," Jackson interrupted, emerging with his plasma cutter drawn. "Dr. Thorne died 3 years ago. All that's here is my wife, helping me manage my inheritance." Lionel's breath caught at the word wife, but she kept her expression neutral as Vega calculated her options. "The authorities will want proof," Vega said finally. "Then they can come themselves," Jackson replied. "But they'll find exactly what the sensors show, an empty, cursed mine barely worth the effort. Unless you'd prefer I report your attempted theft to the Colonial Marines." Vega backed away slowly, her weapon lowered. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Lionel said, and every crystal in sight flared with brilliant light. After Vega fled, Lionel threw herself into Jackson's arms. "Your wife." "If you'll have me," he said, pulling out a ring he'd fashioned from crystal during their nights together. "We can make it official topside, create new identities, build a real life together." Lionel kissed him deeply, the crystals singing their approval. "Yes," she breathed against his lips. "To all of it. To our future." As they stood embracing in their glowing kingdom, they realized they'd found something infinitely more precious than any mineral wealth, a love that could illuminate even the darkest depths, and a partnership that would last far beyond the stars themselves. The end.